Mess Hall. Vortex of Strategic Profit. Mid-transit to Beta 7. The vortex of strategic profit rumbled quietly through Slipstream, a cargo hauler with more rust than sense, and just enough shielding to make insurance optional. In the mess hall, the air tasted faintly metallic, and the nutrient paste of the day was a texture best not discussed. Gianni sat near the rear, hunched over a mug of what he stubbornly called coffee, though he suspected it was synthesized from something that had once been alive and screamed. Still, it was hot and bitter. He took comfort in that. Across from him, Tshirt, the Jathar engineer, was carefully grooming her mandibles with a tool that doubled as a vibroscraper. Nearby, Nall, the ship's four-legged enforcer, flexed his cybernetic jaw plates, chewing lazily on rehydrated meat cubes. Vrix, translucent and pulsating gently in his hydration tank, blinked in sleepy purple. The doors irised open with a hiss and slap. Captain Zoldran slithered in with the unmistakable energy of someone who had made a decision without consultation. "Gianni!" he called, brandishing a glowing data slate. "Wonderful nutrition cycle to you! I bring exciting news!" Gianni looked up, expectant. "What now?" "We are to receive another human!" Zoldran wiggled his feeding tentacles. "You will have companionship, mammalian solidarity. Perhaps you will high five?" For a moment, Gianni's eyes lit up. He sat a little straighter. "Really? That's actually not bad. What sector?" Zoldran beamed. "He is from your Earth's, Australia. Or is it Australia? The consonants are hostile." Gianni paused, blinking. The warmth in his expression drained away like someone had flicked a life support switch. He lowered his mug. Very slowly. "I'm sorry, did you say Australian?" "Yes," Zoldran chirped. "That is the one. From a region called the Top End. I assume this is a prestigious title." Gianni didn't respond immediately. His jaw had gone slack. His left eye twitched. Across the mess hall, none of the aliens reacted. Tshirt hummed a little tune. Nall was still chewing. Vrix glowed a lazy chartreuse. Then Gianni said softly, "No." A pause. "No. Captain, you hired an Australian?" Zoldran's limbs curled in a delighted shrug. "Yes, isn't that wonderful?" Gianni stood. "I thought we had protocols for this. Red flags, emergency checklists. For the love of God, did no one vet his region?" Tshirt looked up, antenna twitching. "Is this bad?" Now the aliens began to notice. Gianni's face had gone pale. He ran a hand through his hair like someone who had just read their own obituary. "You don't get it," he said, voice rising. "Australia isn't a country. It's a warning label." Nor blinked slowly. "I thought it was part of Earth." "It is," Gianni snapped, "and it regrets that fact every summer. If Earth is the galaxy's haunted house, Australia is the basement that's still locked for a reason." Now the mess hall was quiet. Vrix turned an uneasy shade of grey. A utensil clattered to the floor. Zoldran chuckled nervously. "But he was very polite, said no worries, and asked if our hull could handle open flame. I took this as cultural curiosity." "That's not curiosity," Gianni muttered. "That's preparation. Captain, they have spiders that open doors. They have birds that form attack squads. The fish lie." "How do fish lie?" Nall frowned. "They pretend to be sand and stab you when you step on them." "Don't even get me started on the emus. Birds are nearly immune to projectile weapons. They want a war, Captain, an actual war, against humans, And we lost! Tukchel whispered, wide-eyed. What kind of weapons did they use? Gianni turned slowly to face her. They're birds, Tukchel. Birds. Non-sentient animals. They didn't have weapons. They didn't have language or technology or even opposable thumbs. They couldn't build tools. They couldn't formulate strategy. They were just big, angry birds that refused to die. And somehow they still won. They were the weapons. The mess hall fell into stunned silence. Nor's cybernetic jaw plates hung open, forgotten meat cube tumbling to the floor. Rix's translucent form cycled rapidly through shades of alarmed orange and disbelieving blue. Captain Zuldran's feeding tendrils curled protectively around his face. But... Tukchel finally managed, her mandibles clicking rapidly. That shouldn't be possible. Welcome to Australia, Gianni said grimly, where impossible is Tuesday. A slow sliver echoed near the air duct. Zib, the ship's sole Prikiki T crew member, emerged, barely 2 feet tall, pale-scowled and sharp-eyed. The Priki were feared across the sector. Xenophobic, efficient, terrifyingly aggressive. Zib, however, looked uneasy.
He is from... Australia?
Zib asked softly. Gianni nodded. Zib stared for a long second, then quietly turned and crawled back into the vent. Zuldran scratched his head with a tentacle. He has an impressive survival record. Says he's wrestled with something called a cassowary. Gianni covered his face with both hands. Oh God, it's worse than I thought. Zuldran brightened. His name is Mitch Irwin. That is a good human name, yes? Gianni's face went from pale to ashen. He looked at the ceiling like he might find answers there. Irwin? Irwin? His voice cracked. He staggered back, nearly collapsing into his chair. No. That clan is infamous. Do you understand? Infamous. His hand shook as he gestured wildly. They don't run away from the most dangerous animals in existence. They run towards them, with a smile on their face. Gianni clutched his chest, breathing rapidly. They pick up venomous snakes, they wrestle crocodiles, they dive into waters infested with things that have more teeth than should be biologically possible, and they call it a bit of fun. A bit of fun! He looked around the mess hall, desperate for someone to understand the gravity of the situation. I don't know what terrifies me more, the name, or the fact that he probably shortens it to Mitchie. A low, metallic bump reverberated through the deck plating. The lights flickered. The ship's stabilizers hissed. The crew froze. We've landed, Rix whispered. Zuldran glanced at the wall panel. Yes, Beta 7 docking clamp engaged. That was our scheduled touch. I told you, Gianni yelled, dropping to his knees to better beg to his captain. We need to get out of here before it's too late. The nearest viewport began to glow with movement. Tukchel, compelled by equal parts curiosity and dread, crept forward and peered out. Oh, she said faintly. Oh no. The rest of the crew crowded behind her. Across the docking hangar floor, a human swaggered forward. He was tall, broad-shouldered and sun-scorched, in worn cargo trousers and a faded t-shirt that read, If lost, return to pub. His boots were scuffed. His forearms looked like they'd won fights with industrial machinery. A duffel bag was slung casually over one shoulder. A long scar ran along one temple, disappearing under shaggy dark hair. He was whistling. Whistling! And smiling. Rix let out a squeal and sank into his hydration tank with a blorp. Nor backed into a corner and muttered, I'm not trained for this. I'm not trained for this. Tukchel began hyperventilating through all 4 spiracles. A deep clunk came from above. The ceiling vent panel slammed open. Zib re-emerged, dragging behind him a phase cannon that was nearly twice his height. The barrel trembled slightly in his hands as he took up a braced stance, training the weapon squarely at the airlock door.
I will hold him back,
Zip shouted, his voice shrill with tension.
I will buy you time.
A knock came at the airlock. A slow, deliberate knock. 3 calm raps. Zip froze. His eyes went wide. His grip loosened. And then, with a high-pitched wail that echoed off the bulkheads, he dropped the cannon and dived headfirst back into the air duct, vanishing with a clang and a trail of terrified screeches. The ship's klaxon gave a single confused chirp as someone smacked the internal panic button. Gianni didn't move. He just watched through the viewport as the man adjusted his sunglasses and gave a 2-finger salute to the nearest station worker, who promptly dropped their datapad and fled. Captain Zuldran staggered back from the window, horrified.
Why? Why is he grinning?
Because, Gianni said very calmly, he's about to meet the crew, and he's wondering if you stock VB or if he has to ration the 6-pack in his bag. From the floor, Rick whimpered.
He brought his own alcohol?
Gianni nodded solemnly. Of course he did. Outside, Mitch paused, tilted his head toward the ship, noticed them watching through the viewport, and smiled wider. Inside, the mess hall exploded into screaming bedlam.